Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're tackling a book that honestly changed the game for policy and decision making.
Nudge,
And
actually.
we're not just looking back at the original 2008 version by Richard Thaler, the Nobel winner, and Cass Sunstein. We're diving into Nudge, the final edition.
Yeah, the original was huge. It gave us choice architecture, led to, what, over 400 nudge units popping up in governments everywhere?
It really changed the conversation globally.
It became part of the language, almost.
So, given all that success, the big question we want to unpack today is, why mess with it? Why a final edition after more than 10 years?
Right. What needed changing? What did they add?
And what new ideas came out of all that real-world testing? Plus, maybe we should quickly touch on that core idea they built it all on, libertarian paternalism. What does that actually mean?
We should. It's fundamental. Basically, libertarian paternalism is about designing things, policies, systems to sort of gently guide people towards better choices. That's the paternalism part.
Okay.
But, and this is the crucial bit, without ever taking away their freedom to choose something else. That's the libertarian side.
So you can, put the healthy food at eye level in the cafeteria?
Right. Nudge them towards the salad.
But you can't ban the French fries.
Exactly. You can't lock the junk food drawer. Choice is always preserved.
Okay, that makes sense. It's a careful balance. But still, why revise a book that was already so successful at that concept?
Well, hilariously, they kind of admit they fell prey to their own theories, specifically, the status quo bias.
Ah, inertia. Don't fix what isn't broken.
Pretty much. Thaler is even described, jokingly, I think, as famously lazy. The real push, believe it or not, was that the original paperback contracts just expired.
Seriously, that was the trigger.
Seems like it. They needed that external nudge, ironically.
And once they opened the hood, so to speak, they started seeing how much had changed since 2008. It's easy to forget how long ago that was.
Yo, it's wild. Thaler was just getting his first iPhone. Sunstein, his first BlackBerry. And the book actually mentions the snazzy but now obsolete iPod.
Yeah, that definitely dates it. A bit like finding flared jeans in the back of the closet.
Exactly. And some policy stuff just moved on, too. They had a whole chapter, I think, on using nudges for same-sex marriage.
Right.
But then many places just legalized it directly through laws, which wasn't really the path the authors had focused on. So that chapter felt, well, redundant.
So the world changed around the book.
It did. And this led to another behavioral trap they diagnosed in themselves. Book revision creep.
Uh-oh. The while we're at it bias.
Precisely. They use this great analogy. It's like deciding to replace your fridge. And you think, oh, might as well do the dishwasher.
And the floors look a bit dated now.
Maybe new cabinets. Actually, let's redo the whole kitchen. Before you know it, you're landscaping the garden, too.
Ha-ha. Okay, I get it. So a quick summer update turned into
a deep rewrite that took them until late November, way longer than planned.
scope creep indeed. But you mentioned the quid ideas, the first few chapters defining things like libertarian paternalism. Those are largely intact.
Yeah, they call them remastered. The foundation is solid. They just polished it. The big changes, the new thinking, that comes later in the book.
Okay, good. So what are the major additions in this final edition? What are the key takeaways?
Well, there are several updates, but two really big new concepts get their own chapters and feel particularly relevant now.
All right, let's get into them. What's the first?
The first is smart disclosure. This is all about how governments and really any organization shares important information.
Okay, disclosure, like ingredient lists or loan terms.
Exactly. But they argue most disclosure today is stuck in the past. It's often just dense text on paper or maybe a static PDF.
Hard to use, basically.
Very hard. Think about trying to compare complex financial products or, for example, someone with a shellfish allergy trying to figure out what's safe to eat. Reading tiny print on dozens of packages, it's impractical.
Especially if your eyesight isn't great or you're just in a hurry.
Right. So, smart disclosure says this information needs to be digital, machine readable, and easily searchable.
So searchable data. Like I could just type contains shellfish into a database.
That's the idea. Sunstein should be able to quickly find foods without shellfish online, not by squinting at labels.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. It turns static information into something useful.
And that unlocks the next step, what they call choice engines.
Choice engines, like a search engine for decisions.
Kind of, yeah. Think about how easy it is to use Google Maps to find the best route. A choice engine, using that smart disclosed data, could do the same for complex decisions.
Like finding the cheapest energy plan that meets my green preferences, or the health insurance that covers my specific doctor.
Exactly. You tell the engine your priorities, and it uses the data to find the optimal choice for you, cutting through all the complexity.
That sounds incredibly useful. But couldn't making all this data available digitally lead to its own kind of overload? Just, too many results, too much information.
That's a fair point, and it's where another concept they emphasize comes in curation. The choice engine isn't just dumping data on you.
Okay.
It's filtering and presenting a manageable set of good options based on what you said you wanted. It guides you through the noise.
Got it. So it manages the complexity rather than just adding to it. That's smart. Okay, what's the second big new concept? You said there were two.
The second one is brilliant, I think, just for the name alone. Sludge.
Sludge. Okay, I can immediately picture that. Nasty stuff.
It is. Sludge is basically all the unnecessary friction, the bureaucratic hurdles, the complicated forms, the waiting times, anything that makes it harder than it needs to be to make a good choice or access something you're entitled to.
Like filling out endless paperwork for a simple permit, or the nightmare of getting reimbursed by insurance sometimes.
Exactly that. It's the time cost, the mental effort, the sheer frustration that often stops people, especially those who might need the help the most.
So it's like the opposite of a nudge. It's a negative force pushing you away.
Precisely. And the authors argue sludge is everywhere. Their big call to action in the final edition is for every organization, public, private, whatever, to launch a seek and destroy mission for unnecessary sludge.
Seek and destroy sludge. I like that.
Yeah. And the insight is that sometimes just removing sludge is far more powerful than adding a clever new nudge. Make the good choice, the easy choice, by removing the barriers.
Can you give some clear examples of where sludge reduction has worked?
The classic one they mentioned is return-free filing for taxes. Some countries send taxpayers a pre-filled return based on data they already have.
So you just check it and click submit?
Pretty much.
Yeah.
Imagine the hours, the stress, the errors that eliminates. That's massive sludge reduction. Another big area is simplifying forms. Applications for financial aid, visas, small business licenses, health benefits. These are often incredibly long and complex. Making them shorter and clearer removes a huge barrier.
Yeah, you can see how that directly helps people access things they need. So beyond smart disclosure and sludge, what other updates did they make? You mentioned a focus on financial decisions.
They definitely beefed up the sections on money, which makes sense given things like widespread credit card debt or how people struggle choosing mortgages or health plans.
Still very relevant problems.
Absolutely. And they introduced a few more specific choice architecture tools here. We mentioned curation, already limiting options to good ones. The other two are personalized defaults and make it fun.
Okay, make it fun sounds intriguing, but let's focus on personalized defaults. How's that different from a regular default setting?
The standard default is one size fits all, right?
Yeah.
Like everyone gets enrolled in the basic savings plan unless they opt out.
Okay.
A personalized default uses information about you to set a default that's more likely to be right for you.
Ah, so tailored.
Exactly. For retirement savings, maybe a younger employee gets defaulted into a slightly higher risk, higher growth fund because they have decades to invest.
While someone closer to retirement might get defaulted into a safer option.
Precisely. Uses data age, maybe income level, whatever's relevant and available to make the default nudge smarter and more effective for the individual.
That's a significant refinement. It feels more, helpful.
It is. And these aren't just tools for government. Private companies can and should use these ideas too. Banks, retailers, tech companies, they can design choices that are simpler and better for their customers, not just their bottom line.
Makes sense. They also broadened the scope to things like climate change, didn't they? But with a note of caution.
Yes, there's more on environmental issues, which is obviously critical. They talk about how nudges can help things like smart energy meters showing real-time usage or defaults for green energy suppliers.
Useful tools.
But they're also very clear about the limits. They explicitly state that nudges alone can't solve massive systemic problems like climate change.
Right. Choice architecture is part of the solution, but not the whole solution.
Exactly. You still need big policy changes, technological innovation, maybe carbon taxes or regulations, alongside the nudges. It's about being realistic.
And one advantage of waiting over a decade to revise is that they can now look back at how some early nudges actually performed long-term, right?
That's a really valuable part of the update. They have like 2 decades of data on some initiatives. The example they use is the Swedish National Retirement Savings Program, set up back in 2000 with a specific choice architecture.
And what did they find? Do these nudges last?
Remarkably well in some cases. The way the choices were initially set up in Sweden had a powerful, lasting effect. People tended to stick with their initial, often defaulted fund choices for years and years. It shows that good choice architecture can have incredibly durable impacts.
Wow. Almost forever, as they say. Okay, before we get to the title itself, there's one specific chapter they apparently rewrote entirely because people kept misunderstanding it. Organ donation.
Ah, yes. This is really important, and they stress this. They rewrote it because readers often thought they were advocating for a policy called presumed consent.
That's the system where you're automatically considered an organ donor unless you actively opt out.
Correct. And Thaler and Sunstein want to be absolutely clear. They do not support presumed consent.
Why not? It seems like it would increase donation rates.
It might, but for them, it crosses that line we talked about earlier. It violates the libertarian part of libertarian paternalism. They believe it infringes too much on genuine freedom of choice.
So they support making it easy to choose to donate.
Yes, like having to check a box, yes or no, when you get your driver's license, what they call mandated choice.
But not assuming consent, you still have to actively agree.
Exactly. They really emphasize respecting that individual choice, even if it means slightly lower donation rates than a presumed consent system might yield. It's a core principle for them.
Okay, that's a crucial clarification. Now let's talk about the title, the final edition. That sounds pretty definitive. Is it just marketing?
Well, maybe partly. But they actually frame it as a direct application of behavioral economics to themselves. It's about self-control.
Self-control. How so?
Think about problems like overspending or smoking. People know they shouldn't, but they struggle. So sometimes they use commitment strategies.
Right, like freezing your credit card in a block of ice, or maybe telling all your friends you're quitting smoking so you'll be embarrassed if you don't.
Or like a problem gambler voluntarily asking a casino to ban them. You made the tempting or bad option unavailable or harder to access.
Okay. So the title.
By calling it the final edition, Thaler and Sunstein are basically making a public pledge. They're using the title as their own commitment strategy to stop themselves from endlessly tinkering with the book again.
To avoid falling back into that book revision creep trap.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's a way to say, okay, we're done. This is it. Although they do add a funny little note that maybe only one of them actually believes they'll stick to the pledge.
That's brilliant. Using their own medicine on themselves. So, summing up, why should someone, maybe someone who read the original years ago, bother with this final edition?
Well, it's just much fresher, obviously. It incorporates all the lessons learned over 15 years of these ideas being used and sometimes misused in the real world. You get the refined thinking, the new tools like smart disclosure and personalized defaults.
And the anti-sludge mission.
And especially the anti-sludge mission. That feels like a really powerful practical takeaway. It gives you, the reader, a new lens to look at the world and a mandate to challenge unnecessary complexity.
Okay, so that's the knowledge we want you, the listener, to take forward from this. Really internalize that idea of sludge.
Yeah, start looking for it. As you go about your week, put on your sludge detector glasses.
Think about one specific place in your life. Maybe it's dealing with your bank or navigating healthcare stuff, or even just some internal process at work where you consistently hit frustrating, unnecessary barriers. Where's the sludge?
And then ask yourself, if you were the choice architect for that situation, what's the one form, the one step, the one annoying hurdle you could just eliminate?
Replace it with a one-click solution or a smart default, or just get rid of it entirely. How could you make the good path the easy path?
That's the challenge. Start your own seek and destroy mission for sludge.
That's a perfect place to leave it. Thanks for taking this deep dive with us today.